Alrighty. Hi, Abigail. How are you going? This is awkward, isn't it? Isn't this just a big, awkward, fucking gay conspiracy? You know what I mean? You've got me, closeted, obviously held down homosexual person, kind of subtly flirting with you in the hopes to find mutual ground and establish the fact that I probably am gay. But needed, I don't know. It's like I'm gay, but I need my women or my men to look like women. Which, what does that even mean? Who knows? You know what I mean? It's getting weird now. And I just thought I should bring it to your attention that your reference towards NASA and the moon being made of cheese is exactly the point. You've exactly hit your mark perfectly on the stage. You've gotten that X that was there. You hit it perfectly with brilliance. I tells you. Because now is the time that I have to tell you that, in fact, the moon was made of cheese. My mother worked for NASA, and because of her exposure to NASA, she experienced her own type of conversion therapy as well, which had nothing to do, I'm assuming, with her gender, although maybe that was the way that was covered up. It had to do with her, I don't know, her behaviour. And this is, so it's like, it's not so much that trans people were a thing and LBG and gay people were a thing. It's that anyone who wasn't conforming was identified and then prosecuted and then treated using, a myriad of different psychological and traumatic therapies, right? Which, you could consider that one of those therapies could have been to tell people that they were a girl. Considering that that's literally what every child, every young bully does anyway. There's an assumption to be made that, well, when the bullies got older, that they just kept doing that. And then there's two. It's like maybe the bullies forced the rebels, the radicals, the oddballs, into submission by feminization, and then there was another class that basically exploited these now feminized individuals, now submissive individuals, for sexual acts. All held in the metaphor of the medical industry that you are continuously striving to legitimize. And look, this is the stage where we get to a really complicated series of events, okay? Now, and this is where we also get to the point where you referenced the now, disclosed fact that the moon was in fact made of cheese. Now, the reason for this is because for a very long time, there were three industries known as the sheep industry, the goat industry, and the cow industry, who were all making different variations of cheese, okay? Now, the cow industry of cheese won this by an astronomical figure. This is why the nursery rhyme, hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. Okay. Now, as part of a Freemason conspiracy, there has been key pieces of breadcrumbs, of clues left around the world. Okay. And I have a picture of my grandfather and my grandmother from Tasmania, a wonderful couple by the name of Sydney and Winifred. Okay. Beautiful English names, I think. And they were at the opening of the Cat and the Fiddle, which is in Hobart, in Van Diemen's Land, which is called the Apple Isle. It looks like a vagina, like a furry vagina, which is symbolism and, symbolically displaying the gender neutrality of a bush. If you had a big bush and, a not provocatively large penis, you would be in a different scenario to do with gender presentation. Now, the fact that a bush covers the specific genitalia means that in an adult environment of sexual reproduction, the bush covered all sins. The bird in the bush, or the apple in the bush, or the Adam and Eve in the bush, or the bush covers up gender specifics in adulthood. Now, in children, it doesn't. Okay? So the core principle of identifying, genitalia in the pre-bush means a bird in the bush is worth two in the cage, which means that those children are in a cage and are being falsely tampered with by the medical industry before they have reached maturity, which would be obscured and camouflaged within a bush, like birds do. They hide in a bush against predatory birds. And when there's other predatory birds out, if you're, in the natural selection, you would hide yourself, disguise yourself in a bush. But anyway, the Hey Diddle Diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon, which showed clearly that the cattle industry, the superior cheddar, the superior cheese industry, the dairy monolith spread around the world, did and was agreed to be the supreme version of cheese. And so goat's cheese and sheep's cheese, although delicacies in the form of feta, in the form of, goats, brie and things, all these things were placed into the category of boutique, okay? But they were not selected for mass production, majoritively because of the lower impact that cattle had on their environment, which is the earthbound environment. We're not talking about outer space here. There's no need to reference, a American space exploration company when referencing, the selection and observation of pre-adolescent individuals and then obsessing about their genitalia. Because in a pre-Gillette world, in a world before shaving, in a world where trans would be impossible, there was just bush. There was just bush, and that is what Tasmania looks like. Tasmania is the international symbol for a big furry bush which covers all sins. Now, where else am I going to go from this? You know what I mean? Because I'm really just spitballing, and I'm showing you the ridiculous nature of all of these things. Now, the main reason I'm doing this is because you insist later on in the video, after I go and defend you and support and say that thank you for doing it, and thank you for all of this, thank you. And it's like, the problem is that it seems like we are two mouthpieces of the same place, just basically exploring the same complex issue that there is too many fucking cooks in the kitchen and that they're cooking children in cauldron because the children are not disguised in the bush. Now, I grew up in the bush. Okay, like literally in Australia, we call the forest. We don't call it a forest; we call it the bush. And I grew up in the bush. Now, when male visitors would come and visit my mother, I would run and hide in the bush, and I would fantasize about killing them. Okay, I don't know what that brings to the story, but it probably, maybe says that there's a little bit of female interaction here. That maybe some of the things that were being spoken about, like say, if the mother is, stimulated and supported into being recklessly promiscuous, in the weird consideration where it's like, instead of disciplining the promiscuity or, socially rejecting it, we create a medical phenomenon where the traditionally negative behavior is now celebrated, and a get out of jail free card is issued in the form of subsidized health care, and this has all the hallmarks of all the things that you're mentioning to do with the trans phenomenon. And she seems to be the pre-existing model of